Hello, Joe Simhart here. It's February 18th, 2023. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to discuss a disgraced guru who seems to be trying to have a comeback with a new book. But first I'd like to quote something from an article that appeared in Psychology Today in 1998 called Crimes of the Soul, and it's about the guru game, and it interviews a few ex-members, including the mother of Andrew Cohen. But the article mentions sociobiologist Edward O. Wilson, who long ago said the impulse to believe in God is the most complex and powerful force in the human mind and an ineradicable part of human nature, unquote. Then the article goes on to say, when we funnel that force down to a single religious teacher, we rebel against the very freedom we fought for from the start. So, yeah, this is about the guru game and why it's so prevalent and attractive to spiritual seekers and, people that feel drawn to the enlightenment game, usually from a young age, and they get caught up in it. And some wise up and go on to do normal things in life and get a job and stop pursuing the game, and others just never learn. Well, Andrew Cohen's one of them. So let's see who he was. According to a biography, he was born in New York City into an upper middle-class secular Jewish family. He recounts that his life was changed by a spontaneous experience of cosmic consciousness at the age of 16. All right, there we go. I don't know if he was using drugs or just having some experience playing drums, which he was learning as a drummer, jazz drummer. Anyway, at 22 years of age and after pursuing a career as a jazz musician, he began a quest to recover his earlier spiritual experience. He eventually met H.W.L. Punja in 1986 in India, who was a student of Ramana Maharshi, who taught that no mind effort is needed to attain enlightenment, quote, because it is merely the realization of what one already has, unquote. Sounds a bit like A Course in Miracles. It's already there, you just don't know it. Open your eyes, fool. Listen to me, grasshopper. Stop trying. And so at their first meeting, Cohen realized that he had always been there. He'd always been free. He claimed that Punja declared him his heir. So Cohen began to teach as a neo-Advaita or non-dualist teacher and gathered a community around him. It ended up in Fox Hollow in Massachusetts to some extent. He started a magazine called Enlightened. What is Enlightenment? It was quite successful among the New Age enlightenment seeking crowd. Anyway, Punja later claimed never to have given Cohen permission to give spiritual teachings. So that was in the early 90s when they had a breakup. This guy, Cohen, was disgraced quite a bit. A lot of ex-members began complaining about him since the early 1990s and dropping out of his cult. Including this guy, William Yenner, who wrote American Guru. And there's a picture of Andrew there. And Yenner was with him for some years. And it's a story of love, betrayal, and healing. Former students of Andrew Cohen speak out. It's quite a good book. I've reviewed it. But before that, long before that, in 1997, Cohen's mother, who became intrigued with his enlightenment in 1986, became his disciple, submitted to him as you would to God, to a guru. And she put up with his shenanigans, trying to adjust her ego or to erase her ego so she could become her authentic self. She had a horrible experience in the end. She called her sweet son a monster and left him and ended up writing this book called The Mother of God by Luna Tarlo. And it says, a mother's account of her experience as a disciple of her own son, a well-known American guru, and of her struggle to free herself from his control. Yeah, here's another picture of her with little Andrew. She herself is a published poet, a nice lady. I met her, I reviewed her book. She thanked me for it and published my review on her website. So, yeah, what an experience, believing your son was God and submitting to him. Yeah, so why does all this happen? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's like E.O. Wilson said, we just have this pressure to somehow identify or become one with this God force we think is within us or that we came from. It's an old game. We're still playing it as human beings. Cohen, in his new book, let me see here, it's called When Shadow Meets the Bodhisattva, The Challenging Transformation of a Modern Guru. He's claiming he's been transformed, and he says in his introduction, which I downloaded here, I ordered the book, I haven't read it yet, so when I read it, I'll review it. Probably publish the review in a magazine for the International Cultic Studies Association. However, Cohen says that he, did a lot of good when he was a guru. People became enlightened. They really strove to change the world and change themselves. He developed this think tank along with people like Ken Wilber, who came up with a thing in about 2 decades ago called the Center for Integral Wisdom. By the way, Wilber was lauded by people like President Clinton, who said, if ordinary people don't perceive that our grand ideas are working in their lives, then they can't develop the higher level of consciousness, to use a term that American philosopher Ken Wilber wrote about a whole book about. Anyway, he said, the problem is the world needs to be more integrated, thus integral wisdom, right? And Wilber's a proponent of this non-dual Advaita idea that he garnered as a young man when he was seeking for truth. And he's still at it. He's still trying to pursue that game. Anyway, he says, but it requires a consciousness that's way up here and an ability to see beyond the differences among us. Nice idea. And that's a quote from President Bill Clinton in Foreign Policy. So that's Ken Wilber. But getting back to the prologue in Andrew Cohen's new book, he said, throughout my teaching years, I was known for critiquing fallen gurus. I had looked at every new scandal emerging from the spiritual world with deepening concern. I was keenly aware that with every new story, people's trust in the benefits of spiritual life eroded further, and I wanted to stay clear of all that. Well, anyway, he didn't. He became a brute. He was ruthless in his criticism. He didn't fall into the sexual drug problems that many of these gurus had fallen into, but there were certainly money issues and control issues. And in fact, there were over 240 ex-members that signed a document that was published on the internet, I think around 2013, to never allow him to teach again. They found he was so awful. But anyway, he wants to atone for everything. So he says in the end of this prologue, in my darkest hour now, I am consumed by a single nagging concern, the need to atone for all the wrongs and make them right. Interesting. Make them right. Keep that in mind here. I must find a way to honor all that was real and true at the heart of what we stood for. So he still believes that this approach to enlightenment, to non-dual reality, whatever that is, was the way to go, and that it's the ultimate truth for all of mankind, and he still thinks that that's what they stood for. Then he says, this is all I truly care about. There is nothing else for me to do in this world, and I am committing the rest of my life to it. All right, so where have I heard this before? Well, we've seen a lot of fallen gurus who have disgraced themselves in one way or another, or have gotten off the path, ended up in jail, and then come out and do the same things. I mean, I'm thinking of Werner Erhard, for instance, was disgraced on a 60 Minutes article. He resigned from running his organization Est and Landmark Forum. But he's still out there doing more or less the same thing that he taught when he was running Est in a much smaller format, sometimes in Europe and England, trying to become what he thought he was. You know, it reminds me of an old mason I met at a factory when I was a college student working in the summer. He heard that I was thinking of switching from engineering to art, and he told me, son, he said, be careful what you learn to do. You might end up doing it. Well, yeah, I'm still at it. I'm still at the art game, although I've done a lot of other things. But with people like Andrew Cohen, it seems like he still wants to be that guru. He still wants to mine his shadow experience, as Jung would say, that deep, dark self, and learn from it and atone for it and give people more wisdom and a chance for another look at the enlightenment game. I'm looking forward to reading his book. I'll review it for a magazine. I don't expect a whole lot from it. Looking at the prologue here, you know, the guy just doesn't get it. He can't just quit this game, leave that entire seeker world and learn to be a plumber, you know, or run a plumbing business and go away in obscurity with at least some kind of a honorable legacy. He won't quit. Once a guru, always a guru, I guess. Anyway, thanks for listening. Look forward to my review, which I'll probably do a video on once I finish it. Have a good day.